Hello and welcome back everyone to this video number 3 of this series where we are exploring, are we really a sovereign nation state? So for those of you who are watching this series for the first time and have not viewed my previous videos, the points that we have managed to establish on a very firm footing is that the principles on which the establishment of Bharat as a nation state was established in 1947. This premise, okay, this was set upon things that were not really democratic. Okay, people who voted in the Independence Act or in the passing of the Independence Act was passed in the British Parliament. That is number one. People who voted to pass that act were voted to power by the people in Britain, not us. We were not consulted about how exactly do we want our freedom or not, independence or not. Okay, the members of Congress, which in itself was not the representative of the mass of the people, was not even consulted. Okay, so all these things we have already established in video number 1 and video number 2. So if you've not already watched, you can watch that playlist on my YouTube page. So but right now in this third video we are going to discuss about the Mountbatten plan. Mountbatten, or Lord Mountbatten. People in the Britain, they have this fancy habit of adding some titles to their names so they sound important. Okay, so this fellow who goes by the name of Mountbatten, or Lord Mountbatten supposedly, okay, he came up with a plan to divide or to vivify our motherland, okay, which in itself is a travesty and a cruel game that was played by destiny on us, where we had to part ways with 1/3 of our geography. That is again a separate discussion for a separate video series. But right now we'll focus on the Mountbatten plan. Mountbatten plan was basically a plan that Mountbatten came up with after negotiations with some parties. Okay, now these parties, they were not directly elected by people, they did not have the mandate of the people, they were simply just popular at that time. And simply based on the fact that they were popular, there were a lot of people who used to believe in them or who used to trust them. They had accepted them as true representatives of the people or the mass of the people or the general opinion of the people. Now that we know that, now that we have a literate society, now we know that a lot of our population understands or comprehends the basic level of democracy. We can say that that was at that time in 47 consulting only the Congress and only the Muslim League and only a few other parties for national opinion or the opinion of the mass of the people was a big mistake, a mistake that has yet to be corrected. Okay, nobody is seeing this as a mistake. I think a lot of people have forgotten this. All right, so Mountbatten plan, who were the main parties involved? Okay, obviously Mountbatten himself, he was the viceroy. Like I said, these British people, they like fancy titles to their names. I think that is how they feel important. Then there was Clement Attlee, he was the prime minister at that time, and the Redcliffe, Cyril Redcliffe, again a sir. Okay, he was given a knighthood. So Sir Cyril Radcliffe, he's the one who drew the line of control that we have between our country and Pakistan and Bangladesh for that matter. Okay, that was number one. These were the British representatives. Okay, let's come to the representatives of the natives of Bharat. Who were the people who were voicing their opinions on behalf of the majority of the people in Bharat? Were they directly elected? No. Did people vote for them? No. Then how exactly were they selected? They were simply just selected based on succession of the independence or the freedom movement that was going on at that time. Now, like I said, a lot of people, a lot of old people who who were born in those ages, 1950s, 1960s, if they're still alive, and if you get a chance to talk to them, they'll say that at that time we only had a few people. We only had a few people who qualified as public representatives, and even after you qualify as public representatives, you had less people with educational or academic qualifications. So such were the problems at that time. Not so anymore. So what is stopping us from re-legitimizing our democracy and starting from the ground up again? All right, so obviously J.L. Nehru, he was the Congress leader. Then obviously Sardar Patel, Acharya Kripalani, and Mohandas Gandhi himself consulted separately, approved with reservations. Now, if you see all four of them, okay, now agreed, they had made considerable efforts in the freedom and the independence struggle in their individual capacity and also in the capacity of leaders of the Congress party as well. But that does not mean that we elected them. A person might be, extremely good, extremely moral, but if they do not have the democratic legitimacy, they cannot claim to rule or they cannot claim to speak on behalf of the mass of the people. Okay, now all these four gentlemen, they have their own track record of, good things and bad things. That does not mean that they had democratic legitimacy. All right. Then again, the Muslim League, obviously, Jinnah and Liaquat Ali Khan, the Sikh community and the princely slate. Now, out of all these people, none of them were okayed by the public. Just because they were famous at that time, just because they were popular at that time, they assumed the role of importance within the Congress party or the Muslim League or the Sikh community and so on and so forth. Okay. Usually, one argument that is put forward to justify this is there was no literacy at that time. All right, there was no literacy at that time. What's stopping them to do it right now? Now at least we have raised our literary standards to the basic level. Now here, this is where I want you to focus on procedural and democratic lapses. Okay, there is a thing called due process of law. Even if you execute the law or even if you ensure the execution of law, there has to be a proper procedure that is to be followed. Were these procedures that are worthy? Not worthy exactly. What is the word that I'm looking for? The procedures that make a process democratic. Were those procedures followed? Let's see. Number one, obviously, elite representation without popular mandate. Popular mandate means people vote for you. So all these people, nobody had voted for them. They were simply just popular at that time, and they were the elites. Exclusion of major political voices and regional leaders. Okay, now we have a lot of regional parties in our country in the year of 2026, almost more than 7 decades after we gained, or after the British left. All right, so we have a lot of regional parties now, but at that time there were, isolated, secluded regional leaders that appealed to public imagination, but still they were not, voted to power. Look at it like this: if there is an actor in the Bollywood, okay, just because he or she is popular at that time, that does not mean that people have given him or her their democratic mandate or democratic power to legislate on their behalf, to execute on their behalf. All right. Exclusion, imposed timeline of only 72 days from the announcement to implementation. So there was a very tight deadline. Reluctant acceptance under duress by all communities. A lot of people, a lot of communities were reluctant to accept these things, but since there was a deadline and since there were no other viable alternatives, they had to accept it. No plebiscite or referendums on partition of borders. Like I said, this fellow Radcliffe had zero idea about the culture of the land that he is going to vivify and spoil their time in history. And to this very day, these things are still discussed. Okay, to hell with Radcliffe, to hell with the British, but we are still facing the repercussions and consequences of the decisions that they took, and at that time they thought that this was what was good for them. All right. Radcliffe Boundary Commission operated in secrecy and extreme time pressure. We don't know what happened within the closed doors of Westminster. All right, so this was the Mountbatten Plan. Okay, there are a lot of other research material available on the internet, so you can look it up, and that's about it for this video. And the next video, we are going to go through some comparison of European nation state creation procedures. Okay, the way Bharat was created, and we are going to compare and contrast that with the way some nation states in Europe were created. For example, Norway, Irish, then Finland, and all those. And let's see how our process or our procedural democracy that we followed at that time compares with the process of democracy that was followed by these European nation states, and can we come to certain conclusions? Are we really a sovereign nation state or not? Thank you for watching.